Great. Good morning, everybody. A very, very warm welcome from myself. I'm Professor Graeme Brooker. I'm the head of interior design at the Royal College of Art in London. Today, I am honoured to introduce one lecture of the ECIA Atlas project. And before we start, I'd just like to give you some context with regards to that project. The ECIA is the European Council of Interior Architects, a venerable institution that represents interior architects and designers across Europe. I think there are currently 18 member state organizations representing thousands upon thousands of members. And recently they were awarded a European funded project called the BCSP, which is Building on Connections, Making a Stronger Profession. And essentially, this project is very much about promoting the diversity, the strength, the wonderful work that we do across Europe in education, in practice, in academia, and so on and so forth. And it recognizes, it has a wonderful strapline, which is different cultures, shared values, one profession, which I think is a really nice way of thinking about it. This project is called Knowledge Exchange, and it's part of this European funded project where we are, myself as the project manager, Miriam, my research assistant, are tasked with a project which is about exchanging knowledge, and that is to get us to talk to each other, to share the work that we do, and to explore the depth and rich nature of all aspects of interior architecture and design. The outcome of this conversation, one aspect of it, is a project called the Atlas. And for those of you who are unaware of the Atlas project, the Atlas is essentially in development as we speak, a huge online resource which effectively will become the library, the archive of all interior activity across Europe. It's currently in production, it's currently being built. Once it's live and running, which will be spring next year, it will be the go-to wiki interior of everything to do with the broad range of work that all of us undertake, ranging from building reuse through to materiality, through to well-being, health, and so on and so forth. The whole myriad of podcasts, of talks, of journals, of books, etc. So that's the plan. Now, in order to develop interest and to ensure that there's some incredibly rich content on the Atlas, Miriam and myself have devised 6 talks, a monthly series, which will begin today, which I shall introduce shortly, but effectively will be one a month up till the launch of the Atlas and in spring next year. Today we have Silke, which I shall formally introduce in a short while. The second one is on the 18th of October, and it's Practice Research PhDs, and that will be Susie Attiwell and Tuna Kristen in discussion. In November, mid-November, The City of Proximity with Albert Fuster and Enzo Manzini. In December, we have As Found, and that's Inga Sommers and Lee Plevouet talking about found objects. In January, with a date yet to be determined, is Health and Wellbeing in Interior Design with Matthew and Joanna Cloy. And in February, we have Lois in conversation with Massi Mohammadi talking about smart tech in domestic environments. You will, of course, receive lots of information about this, but that's just to give you an outline of what we will be discussing. But first, the first talk today for me is a real privilege and a real honor. We have with us Professor Dr. Silke Langenberg, who officially is the chair in construction of the Heritage Institute and Preservation Institute, if I've got that correct. I hope so, Silke. I first became aware of Silke's work via these 2 wonderful publications, which you can see is always a good sign because I've got lots of notes in, which this one I've yet to fully peruse. So Silke's been on my radar for quite a while, and I won't say anything more about the publications because I'm sure that she's going to be speaking about them today. But I'm really looking forward to this conversation, and the outline will be that Silke will talk for between 20 to 30 minutes. Then I shall try to engage in some conversation, even though I have a heavy cold, which you can probably hear. So I'll try and gather some thoughts and hopefully raise some interesting questions, and we can have a conversation about the work and about ECIA interiors and repair and maintenance and so on and so forth. But of course, you as participants, we're more than happy for you to send in your questions. So please use the chat device and Miriam can help to flag up questions and so on. So without further ado, Silke, welcome. Thank you for doing this. We really appreciate it. And over to you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Graeme. It's a pleasure to start this little lecture series, and it's really an honor to talk here and to present our work. As Graeme has already said, I'm in the field, originally in the field of preservation, monument preservation. And in that field, we normally deal with objects who have high values that are obvious on first sight, or at least accepted by society. Like in the two examples I show here on the left side, that's a wonderful aula in the auditorium. It's an auditorium in the ETH main building by Gottfried Semper, or on the right side, a younger heritage objects whose value are visible, are recognizable. In the field of monument preservation, the topic of repair is quite common, and it is a concept that is not requested so much like other concepts, like, for example, reconstruction or decisions about conservation or restoration. We will come back to these terms later. In the field of monument preservation, there are already many publications, wonderful publications on the topic of repair. I just show some of them here from much valued colleagues like Wilfried Lipp, who introduced the term repair society, and Michael Petzet also, Hartwig Schmidt, who published on the concept of repair already some decades ago, and a very young publication from the last few years, Thomas Will from Technical University Dresden, who has published many articles on the topic of repair and published them again in a revisited edition, which is very nice. And also in the field of history of technology, the topic of repair pops up again and again. What you can see also on the right side, again, the ETH main building, that in monument preservation, repair is sometimes a pragmatic concept. You can see it, you can recognize that something has happened to the old object, and that is something, it keeps as much of the original substance as possible, and the original substance is, well, the highest value in monument preservation. So that is one field where somehow the topic of repair also started in my history. But the protected objects are only between 5 and 10% of the entire building stock. So we have much more buildings, already existing building stock, whose values are maybe not obvious on first sight, but it doesn't mean they not exist. We have objects that are existing in an incalculable number, and there are values obviously also stored in these objects, yes, even if they are not recognizable. Also on that topic, there has already been a lot of research, mainly driven already 20 years ago by Uta Hassler and Niklas Kohler, who addressed the need of dealing with existing contexts and also the topic of resources around 2000. So we could already know since 20 years that we should work with existing contexts to have less waste in the building sector. I share here some publications of Uta Hassler and Niklas Kohler. I can really recommend them, and there are also some in English. I myself researched the huge building stocks of the 20th century, the second half of the 20th century, in my dissertation. It was called Buildings of the Boom Years. So I was quite aware how these objects have been built, what were concepts behind these buildings, and what are maybe also challenges when it comes to the conservation, the rebuilding, the renovation, retrofitting of these objects. Most of them are built using industrially fabricated building elements, which are more difficult to repair compared to older building stocks that have been produced or have been built by hand. When I finished my PhD, there was an article in German newspaper Die Zeit, which I normally like very much. It's a very good newspaper, but they published this article that you can see on the left, which says like, please demolish at once. And there are objects all of the time of the second half of the 20th century. You can see mostly from the 60s and 70s, which are not acknowledged by the society during that time. I have to say, one of the images that, where the author called for demolition was already a listed monument during that time, the building here on the right side in Hamburg. A colleague from Edinburgh sent me this image. So I think also in Britain, you are quite aware that there is a change going on in the recognition of the building stocks of the 20th century. In the 60s, that was modern architecture. Then, it was not valued so much anymore. Then also after time of use, the buildings had defects, have not altered very nice. But then there was some kind of a rediscovering of this architecture happened. And this graphic here ends in the 1990s. It doesn't mean that the object's out of danger, but at least a recognition started. The question is if something has really changed. Meanwhile, there have been many research projects on the building stock of the 20th century. People are aware that there are values. The same photos that have been taken for my dissertation. And when I finished it, I was asked why I care about this horror building stocks. These images have been in an exhibition meanwhile with the title Big Beautiful Buildings. So it just took 20 years that the ugly buildings suddenly turned to something beautiful without changes going on this stock. With this slide, I would like to move to the main topic of the lecture, which is about repair. And it comes from this background, which I have just described before. In my professorship in Munich, which I had before coming back to Zurich, I started a repair course. And it came out of my background, on the one hand, the concept of repair, how to teach the students different concepts of dealing with existing objects and to explain them very explicitly the differences between conservation, restoration, reconstruction, upgrade, recycling, and so on. That was one sense. The other reason was for sure to raise awareness for dealing carefully with the existing and to address the topic of sustainability, obviously. The course was organized quite easy. The concept was quite easy, and the concept has already, meanwhile, also adopted by other universities. And I'm very happy that the idea, reached a wider community. In my course, the students in the first phase have to bring an object that they could repair by hand. And I would like to show one project from one of the first courses. It has been published quite widely and also exhibited. Meanwhile, it is this little chess table. I haven't brought an image of the before status. It was quite ruined. You can imagine if you see the original chess here in the chessboard in the drawer here. So in this project, the student decided to test different concepts of repair within one object, and that is why I think this object is very a very good case study and a very nice object. So as you can see here, There have been, I hope you can see my mouse. Here on the left side of the chess table, the student decided to restore missing parts, but also to make it visible where a new intervention has started and where are the original parts. She had also conserved the original chessboard here in the drawer. This is under a glass plate so that not more damages can happen. She reconstructed the middle part of the chessboard because there was a wrong construction, and if she had just repaired it, the problem would have happened again and again. So that was also some kind of an upgrade already to make it better than it was constructed before. So with a repair to not repeat the mistake. And then she also used some new digital technology to produce spare parts somehow. So the new chess figures are 3D printed. We have done in this course many different projects, have tested different concepts, and the concepts have been developed with regard to the value of the object. There were objects that had a very high value as an object, so design classics, chairs, something like that. There have been objects that had a high sentimental value for the owners, and we have tried to react on these values with our concept. That is something that is quite similar how we deal with historic objects or with protected objects. We develop a concept for the conservation of a monument with regard to the value the object has. So here are some examples. I would like to just have taken out 3 of these that I show here, which I would like to discuss briefly or to bring to your attention. The first one is the chair with a Vienna waving. We had in the course, every course we run, somebody comes with a chair like that, and this Vienna weaving is always broken. So it gets brittle after time if the chair is used, and it is somehow also some kind of a spare part which is constructed to be exchanged or to renewed after a while. Nevertheless, we have to do it again and again after a while of use of this chair. And in this case, the student asked, okay, is there a chance that I do not have to do it again and again? And I really like this project. It also used digital technology. The student, she had 2 chairs, and she copied the intact grid of the original pattern and engraved it in a wooden plate, which she then installed in this chair. And you can see it here. Yeah, you cannot look through anymore. It's not the weaving anymore, but you have the image. You have all the irregularities. Sorry, that's a different word. It looks very nice, and it looks like some kind of a new design intervention to the chair. If we have architectural projects in mind, we have similar concepts also in existing contexts. In the second part of the repair course, I always ask the students to bring an object that is not done by hand, that is industrially fabricated or at least serially manufactured, and where it is very difficult to do it by hand. They have to research digital technology, and if they can produce a spare part. That was the idea. This is one of these projects. It's an old lamp where for sure it could have been done also. She could have done really a new glaze shade for this lamp, but it would have been very difficult. And we thought, okay, is there a chance to reproduce this spare part with digital technology? She 3D printed it, and what came out is also a slightly different design appearance. The inner support structure, it shines through and gives it now a different expression, which maybe also makes it more interesting. yeah, you can decide. You can decide yourself. Nevertheless, we have to say, well, we have like a very good. In the original lamp, it was a glass, yeah, a higher valuable material, which we have replaced with a PLA. So obviously not the same value as the original glass. Yeah, in that case, we thought it is okay, but in other cases, we would maybe try to do it with the same material, or this is the link to the next project, maybe also to improve the object by using better materials. Yeah, in Munich, I opened the course after a while for students from the design faculty, and it was quite interesting. Well, on the first then it was that we were overrun by the design students, which was on the one hand very nice, on the other hand a problem in the architecture faculty because all the places were occupied. But we recognize there is an interest and the course should be opened, and it's also something I'm very happy that meanwhile not just architecture courses have adopted the course, but also design faculties. So this is a project of a design student who likes these nice small headphones. He said he always uses them. They always break in the same place with this little plastic piece here, and he always has to buy, even if they're technical still work, he always have to buy a new one, and wanted to improve it. And then he produced the spare part out of brass. It's not he did it by hand with the help of machinery for sure. And here we have the case of an upgrade of this headphone. Regardless, the material upgrade, it also looks obviously very nice. It was a bit heavier than the original one, but the spare part now works longer than the whole headphone. So he will have the spare part longer than this one and could also exchange the spare part again and again. This was also one of the projects which was a reason why we also changed the course after a while. We had seen many repair projects, and I just recognized I was more interested after a while in the project that tried to improve by repairing. What is also the case in architectural projects where we normally try to improve with our interventions. So out of these projects in the second round, also we did the second publication, which was then also renamed. The first book was Repair, Encouragement to Think and Make, and the second one was Upgrade, Making Things Better. On the left, there's also the poster from the book launch, which we did in London. After that book, we thought, okay, now we have seen many pieces, interior design objects, we have to have technical objects. What is really the link to architecture? Because obviously I'm a professor in the field of architecture. I teach mainly architect students. How can we bring all our results now really in the building sector? And with that, we renamed the course again, which was now Keep in Place, to not exchange everything, but to try to keep as much as possible in the original status and repair on site. Teaching a repair class on site is not the easiest thing. The students have chosen again various projects, and it's very difficult to get the permission to really do the repair projects. And it was also, we have much bigger building elements, for example. So it became very challenging. So we thought what could be, again, a change in the project that we are really able to repair it. And that is like the workload is also not on every single student so high. So we decided to change the course slightly and to do it as a design research course in an existing context. For that, it was necessary to find the perfect object, to find an owner who is willed to allow us to repair his building. And we were very lucky that we found a very, very valuable object where we are allowed to do that. And this is historic Hotel Schatzalp. It's famous by the novel of Thomas Mann, also The Magic Mountain. And the owner allowed us to repair different rooms and building parts in this object. We went there with about 30 students last year and started this course here on site. The second round of this course will start within 1 month when we go back to the Schatzalp and repair more rooms. We could use the workshops there because the Schatzalp has already all these workshops. They have really a very interesting strategy about not exchanging too much, but just really to repair the things and put in order when it is really necessary, and to avoid too big renovation interventions, and to avoid to throw building parts away until they have really reached the end of their life. So I would just like to share with you some before and after images. What have we done there? So there, we have selected in the first stage, we have selected 3 rooms where we wanted to do intervention. This is one room. You can see the status before here on the up on the left. You can see there was some furniture from the 70s, which was in good condition. It was massive material, massive wood. So there was no need to throw this away. Nevertheless, you can see it is not like the Art Nouveau style of the original building. And we decided to put this room back as near as possible in the original status. We selected this room because also the bathroom of this room was from that time. So there was still this Art Nouveau bathroom, a very nice thing. It's room 125. If you go to Schatzalp, I would select that one. So we decided to reconstruct here, in that case, the original floor. So it's linoleum, which we had to bring in new because the original one was already gone. And we selected in the storage and in the cellar original furniture that was like put beside because it was broken, or in case of this bed, which was too short to meet current hotel standards. So it was 20 meters too short. And so we made these beds longer, decided how to do that. We restored this furniture, and we also for sure made an analysis what was the original coloring of the object. We worked together with people from restoration in that case to find the original color and so on. And this is the status how the room is now. We selected another room which was yes, not in the nicest nicest condition. As you can see here, there was some renovations going on. It is on the back side of the hotel. It has some, yeah, it was a mixture of everything. And we thought, okay, can we bring it what do we have in this room? What are values? What is very nice? It has strange niches here. Yeah, and we found original hospital beds from the sanatorium time of the historic hotel, which you can see in here. It's the last original hospital beds that we have found from the latest phase of the hospital use. And also these furniture we bought back, we refreshed the colors on the outside. In the inside, we just conserved the original colors. And also, yeah, you can, as you can see here, there were some little furniture pieces which we had to separate, that they fit the room. And the students then made here like this nice intervention because it was because of the dividing into 2 parts, it was too short. And they decided to make it visible that something happened here. And that is something also in relation to monument preservation that we try to show our interventions and not to hide them. So here you have the status of this room before and afterwards also. The third room I will skip with regard to the time. I just want to go back on the building because we also did some interventions here. It is a building from 1900, the Schatzalp, so it is the concrete has some damages. So we here at ETH we created the original mixture to repair these broken parts of the columns. We also wanted to produce spare parts of the original floor plates, which are outside. That was very difficult to burn them then, that they had the exact site. Luckily, at the Schatzalp, we then found many of these original plates, which were already stored in the cellar, and we could make an exchange with the original material. And you can, as you can see here, we just like took out the old parts and bring in the new spare plates that we have found. So that is some kind the repair in teaching, what we are dealing with. What is important, it is not so much to train the students to really repair the things by hand, because this is something architects maybe don't do themselves. It's more about getting an awareness that there is a chance to do that, but also the transfer in architecture and also in their new planning to think about repairability from the beginning on. They recognize by repairing these objects how difficult it is to repair something if it is not planned for repair. So that is something very crucial in this course, and obviously the main aim behind, because we want to avoid this waste production in the building sector. With this, I would like to make a short shift to the research projects we are also doing in this field. Teaching is one, but here we are really like try to push it also in the in research. I would like to share one project of a PhD student of Matthias Brenner, who is also here taking photos. It's about repairing buildings from the last decades, about high-tech architecture. And we just recognize that information about this building, not just about these, but also other young buildings, we lose them quite fast. In case of this object, which is from the 80s, the original construction plans have already been gone. The most detailed plan we got is this one, which the architects were so kind to give to us, and where we can understand how this construction of this facade really works. Nevertheless, as there was a lack of, obviously, 3D plans for sure, we had to do a reverse engineering to get a 3D model of this facade construction, because we wanted to see if it was possible to produce spare parts. We wanted to produce these things here as a spare part, that when it comes to a crack or something in this building, is it possible to not exchange the whole facade, which would be the normal case, but just to exchange the things that are really broken and to avoid this huge amount of waste. After the reverse engineering, we produce a spare part here using digital technology in collaboration with the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering. Afterwards, these produced elements are tested within the Faculty of Civil Engineering. And here, as you can see here, from the engineering side, it is performing very well. And then we could for sure install it, but then we come to the problem or the challenge of building regulations, norms, which are at the moment more addressing new building, new constructions, and not enough the case of repair, of retrofitting. And here we try to find solutions also with people from management and law. How can we now bring this really in the building industry? My chair belongs not just to the Institute of monument preservation and building research. It also belongs to the Institute of Technology and Architecture, because we try to see also what this new technology could help us in our field. And in that field, we see there could be solutions that help us. Yeah, I have already shown the examples. How can we bring these two sides together to improve maybe also repair concept to produce spare parts? On the other hand, the new technologies also cause new problems. We know, like this facade, which is completely digitally fabricated by industrial robot, placing the bricks. If we have a damage here, we have a problem because, the data is already gone. The knowledge of these, how these objects have been constructed is available only with a few people. The data storage, I think everybody knows this problem, and that is something we would like to address in another research project where we collect digital data to make them available in a case of repair in about 2 decades, so that if we want to repair these new constructions, that we still have the knowledge and maybe also the data, that we do not repeat the mistakes, what I've shown before from the high-tech facade of the 80s. With this, I would like to come to an end. Also, the time is reaching the end. The topic, I'm very happy that the topic of repair has meanwhile really spread. It has reached the architects communities. Here we see some posters from exhibitions that have been happening in the left in Zurich. On the right, you see the Arc Plus publications and the related exhibition in Berlin and also in Paris. You can see that also our projects are exhibited in this context here, where we show, okay, what is the next step? There is awareness of society, but there is also the need to reach really the building industry to make this knowledge available. At the moment, there is a lot of projects going on on the topic of circularity also, which is very necessary, because it helps to put building elements in parts again. This is like you know this maybe, the Biennale from Mopezet. It's from 2012, and he brought the slogan of the waste management to the building sector: reduce, reuse, recycle. At the moment, we recognize that there is quite an interest on this topic of reuse. From my perspective, we always try to remember that reuse is in the second place. The reduce is with good reason on the first place. It's about reducing waste. It's about reducing the loss of resources. And repair is for sure a concept that would also belong in this line. It helps to reduce waste, and it comes before the reuse, for sure. And with that, I'm really at the end. This is just like a little commercial slide on the end, because the topic of repair, we just start a new CIS program, Certificate of Advanced Studies. We start this in spring, and it addresses exactly the questions that I've discussed today with you. We want to train architects, civil engineers, mechanical engineers, designer, to really be aware and develop repair concept that could also be scalable and help to improve the overall building stock. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Silke. I always hate the silence at the end of a talk, so I'm going to give you a virtual applause on behalf of all of the participants. Thank you very much. That's a really great talk, actually fascinating. I have so many questions. I'm conscious that we want to be finished by 10 a.m. UK time, 11 elsewhere, and maybe other hours elsewhere. Participants, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, but I'm going to sort of open the questions to Silke, and please do join in. Silke, so many questions and so many wonderful things are sort of flashing through my mind. I'm trying to sort of organize them. One is I feel that, like you, as an educator primarily, that we're kind of there's a sort of swimming against the tide. And what I mean by that is myself and probably yourself, and like so many people of maybe our generation, were educated in a way where the designer was prioritized as the sole author, and the kind of the role of the designer was to, or the architect was to put things in and to, make a difference and so on. And it strikes me that for many years, myself, and I'm sure yourself included, we've been working with our students in a way where we are prioritizing the exact opposite, to decentralize the notion of the sole author, to understand your role in the way that you insert yourself into the previous lives of things and so on. So I'm just wondering whether that is your experience really, and how I can see the projects you're doing, similar to some work that I do in regards to how we mend things and repair things. How else do you kind of swim against this tide? Because I constantly find myself talking to the students with regards to how we don't want them to be a designer, so to speak, in the traditional sense.
Yeah, well, as I'm working in the field of preservation, there is a first also that's clear in monument preservation, like we are used to hide our interventions or at least make them visible or recognizable, but not like this on first sight, not in your face. What you're addressing is more like in this building and existing contexts also, where we can also show interventions. We always, like, not just in the repair course, but also in the studios and so on, we always try to train our students to to understand that also developing a repair concept or a retrofit concept is a design process. You have to design not just the process of really like the physical intervention, let's say, how to do it, but you also have to decide, okay, do I want to show my repair? Do I want to highlight it? Yeah, do I want to the object look completely new or look completely different? And that are design decisions we have to do, and that is what I referred to before with a value of the object. And the development of this concept is related to the value of the object. We can give an extra design value. We can also give an extra material value and so on. And that is something we would like to try. I absolutely agree that a change is going on in that field. I recognize that the students here, the younger generation, is really interesting in building an existing context. There are also requests this architectural authorship, it's not so important to be there, like present. Yeah, it could also be like being present in the not seeing anything. Yeah, somehow to have done it correct, or to stand.
I agree. I think there is a refreshing sea change, and I think, I definitely see it in my students. And I'm suppose building on from that question that, and we have many people on the call from interior architecture backgrounds, let's say interior design, architecture, so on and so forth. We're all built environment people, let's say. And it was something interesting that you said where you were in Munich, I think, where your students were a mixture, and the design students were coming in and wanting to do stuff. And I suppose what I feel, and I'm wondering if you have a position on this, is as we move forward, there are priorities now which are, I would argue, are post-disciplinary. And I completely understand we're all in institutions which have certain protocols, certain professional regulations and so on that we all need to fulfill. But somehow, for me, this is post-disciplinary. This urge to address the current issues that we face are, in a way, it's less important whether you're an architect, an interior architect, designer, decorator, product designer. I kind of don't care. I think it's this sensibility of being able to address what is there already and understanding that everything is already with us, and then working your way out from there.
Yeah. Well, if I can,
Sorry,
yeah.
a great question. It's more of an observation, but I've sensed kindred spirits here.
What just comes back to my mind when I opened the course first time for design students, I recognized that they work differently. And I recognized, I have to say, that the designers were much more willed to throw things away or to demolish them, to repair them, just because they didn't like the design appearance, let's say, um, and to change much more. Um, um, it could be that the reason was just because the architect students had like my preservation lecture heard before and were more aware of these things. But it was really, yeah, it was interesting. I had the feeling the designers were more interested in like recycling and upgrading project than really in repairing. And I can imagine that's really from the wish to design, which is well, maybe less with the architects, don't know, depending really on the group. Maybe I can't answer this general, but I think it's also changes going on there.
Yeah, yeah. I realize there's a question, and I'm going to come to it in a minute from Gunjan, but I just wanted to sort of follow that train of thought really with regards to something you mentioned earlier, which I also am very interested in. And you used the words reverse engineering, which I use a lot with my students. And I think again we are again maybe a more observation than question, but I'm sure you have a position on it. And I'm kind of the opinion that as our work is so much about working with found, what is on site, what is already there, that our forms of research and our processes of research are actually very, very different to the traditional, here I have a question, let's go and find an answer. In many respects now, we have the answers in front of us, whether it's an existing building, an object, some of the wonderful objects that you showed us, or the hotel and so on. And then it's all about asking the right questions of that material, let's say. I call that reverse engineering or reverse normative processes. And I sense that in your work as well, and you mentioned it earlier, which I found fascinating. Do you feel the same thing? And I'm sure that's across preservation, repair as well.
Yes, absolutely. It is, well, there is in our field a strong link to building archaeology, building research. I have to say, we are like, yeah, we are trained to research the object, to find out how it was constructed, how it was built, especially for very old objects. Yeah. And here we also have collaborations with the colleagues from building archaeology for sure, who help us doing photogrammetry, doing 3D scans. We just recognize really for the topic of repair, we think it's necessary to link really the different disciplines. There's building research who has a knowledge about these observations of the buildings to understand how they were constructed. There are the mechanical engineers who are trained in repairing planes. Yeah, well, they don't throw planes away. Yeah, it's just normal, and they have strategies, they have technology how to do that. Yeah, and we can learn from them also. And so, and then there is like also the design sector who is much more aware about what the consumers want, how to react on that, and how can we address that. So there's also an exchange necessary, or how like the industry could be reached. Yeah. And yeah, in that sense, I think, yeah, the reverse engineering, that is something, yeah, for us, it's somehow something we do. We know very well. Yeah. But it's also good to use these technologies to make building surveys of younger objects, because normally building research concentrates more on the older building stocks, and we would need it for the younger.
Thank you.
But the younger buildings are much more in danger than the older ones.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to jump onto the questions because we've got a few coming in now. The first one is from Gunjan, and it says, how would we compare or differentiate repair to restoration?
Yes. Well, that is like a restoration is like using the original technology, try to doing it with the original material to do as less as possible, let's say. Well, conservation is even doing less, just to, for example, just polish something or put a glass plate on it, just to conserve the status how it is. Restoration would be like the next step to put it in order, but for sure using the original technology, original material, and to make it also, then there's a discussion, do I want to show it or maybe not to show it? And repair could also be doing it with different, to fix it, to make it. Repair is more on the usability also, that it functions again. A restoration could also be done and the object is just like in a museum afterwards or something like that. It's also about the image. I hope this is clear. There is clearly a link. Also, a conservation is some kind of repair, also retrofitting. It depends how much you exchange and which technology you use and which material.
I mean, it strikes me, just to follow on, that I'm fully aware of Shannon Matten's wonderful piece about maintenance, and we are swimming in the waters of what is highly regarded, unfortunately, by the construction industry as a very unsexy, let's say, area, because we're not prioritizing the designer as we know them, or the architect. And I think that's always something really important to take apart, because we are dealing with stuff in a way where we are utilizing our skills and our intelligence and our qualities, but at the same time we are sometimes wanting to be invisible. Anyway, I move on. I have more questions for you. This is from Kerem Edmonds. I'm not sure whether it's Edmonds Kerem or Kerem Edmonds, but anyway, why do you think we as designers, architects have a responsibility to use a building's pre-existing narrative as a framework for interventions, and would that restrict progress? ? I don't know if you can see these questions, Silke. It might help if you want to read them, but are you okay with me reading them out to you?
I think I can. No, I can't see them in the chat. No, but it's fine if you read them. It's fine.
Okay. All right.
I think there is no, well, if we talk about the 90% of not protected buildings, there is no need to stand in the second row. There is, it's absolutely fine to do a complete renovation. It's not necessary to stand back. You can also do a complete redesign of the object. I don't think that it's more about keeping, producing less waste, let's say, see what is necessary. But if it's not a protected object where we have special rules, then there is like the need to transport also the image of the building, because there's an overall interest, cultural interest. I don't would say it's necessary to not change anything. Absolutely not. And it depends also on the clients, that we haven't talked so much about the clients. If there is somebody who said, like, I want a new house, please build me a new house, I would say we have maybe the responsible, and there is already a house, let's say, something on the plot. We have maybe the responsibility to remind the people what we will lose if we demolish the object, that there's loss of resources, materials, energy, but that we can show, okay, it's possible to make a complete redesign that maybe needs the new user ideas, but to keep at least the resources. I hope this helps.
Yeah, I think it does. The next question.
It's really about, in the first step, there is the evaluation. What is the value of the object? And absolutely clear, there are also many objects, I totally agree, that don't have an artistic value, unfortunately. Why don't change them? And at least you can keep the resources. Then it's maybe the resource, the building material, is the biggest value. So
I'm going to jump in with a question before the next one. Just with regards to the word reuse, I'm conscious, and I think you might be as well, that we've been at this for many years now, arguably in the profession, any profession, the idea of reusing existing buildings and fragments and is as ancient as it is modern. And in the last 20 years, I wrote my first book about reuse 20 years ago. I'm still utterly underwhelmed by how we're still on a kind of crash course on the planet. And is it time to change that word reuse for something? We need an elevated pitch, something stronger, which really can enforce regulatory change, or maybe make governments stop just going to a COP and doing nothing, do you feel?
I don't know if it's about the term. Yeah, I'm not sure I can answer that. Like, as you can see here on the slide, we try to, or we created this term remain for repair and maintenance because it's something like it needs to stay. Yeah, but it doesn't say how much to stay. And for the whole topic of reuse and circularity, I have the fear that we still push the building industry. Yeah, we have to, even if we reuse something or put it in parts and build something new out of old materials, there's again a lot of energy necessary. Yeah. So it's more about this, yeah, how can we do less? Is it possible to do less? Or at least, I would say, to slow down the processes, yeah, to maybe use something much longer before we start the reuse.
Great. Last few minutes, we've got two questions to go. One from my dear old friend Renee, who is a member of the Board of Architects Chamber, Interior Architects Chamber of, or maybe it's Architects Chamber of Baden-Württemberg. Excuse my German, Renee. His question is around approaching our attitude in the building industry and authorities for building regulations. He says the Architects Chamber of Baden-Württemberg tries to do lobbying in this direction. Architects of the future try to inform, but how can we address the public to create a certain awareness about repair or reuse?
Yes. Oh, well, yeah, well, it's a good question. I think for the public awareness, we are on a good way. Somehow there is at the moment, at least, and also with the younger generation, I have the thing, there is a sensibility for this topic. They are requesting also to use things longer, but I think well, we have to really reach the building industry, yeah, to also take these things on, and that it becomes more the normal case. I'm not sure if if it's necessary or if it's helpful if we do change the regulations. I would really like if you would need a permit to demolish things. At the moment, we just need the permit to build something. Yeah, that this is something that could already help. But yeah, I think the public awareness is rising, and that's also because of these publications, exhibitions, and so on. I think that is here we are on a good way, and maybe also the next generation of architects could help also to push the topic. Yeah, I think there is a change going on also because of the age of the people.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, fingers crossed, eh? Okay, I'm going to squeeze in the last two in the last 2 minutes. First one is from Zoe. What roles are available in the conservation and restoration industry? Well, I think we can probably answer that quite quickly.
Which roles?
Yeah, I assume Zoe means job roles and so on and so forth.
Oh, well, I think, there are like the institutions and monument preservation and so on. There are, you need a special training to get a position there, doing an MIS or like doing a specialization. We recognize that also in the field of architecture, more and more offices request the knowledge in the field of preservation because we could use the methods of preservation, also for the not protected building stock, and that is quite helpful. And I think I really see that there is some kind of a market also for trained, for people trained in preservation originally.
Yeah, for sure. And the last question from Carola in Berlin, I assume, if we understand interiors as composite spaces made of building parts and different objects, would you say that they can actually be repaired in the same sense as architectural or design objects? E.g., the interiors of hotel rooms you showed changed a lot. Would this be an interior repair or redesign, do you think?
Well, I don't think there is such a big difference between the interior construction of the interior and the heavy construction, let's say, of the main building. I think the concepts are somehow the same. I think it's easier with the interior because it's smaller parts, it's movable. We can also like maybe put things apart and put back. The lighter the things are, the easier it is. In the hotel, for example, it was for us very easy because the interiors were just stored in the cellar. We could just like put them back. Yeah. Nothing was thrown away. That was helpful. But we can also think about in the interior, it would be much more easier to, in the topic of circularity, to use things maybe for a while in a special status, and then to change it within the system and bring it back. I don't know if it's clear. So if we think about circularity and maybe systems for interior designs, that is for sure helpful because then we can adapt it quite easy without losing material, something like that. Yes. And yeah, design it like really like interior design interventions are not producing so much waste than in the heavy construction, but there was also something to do. Very often everything is also kicked out. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. I'm conscious of time. You have other lectures to go and do. Thank you very much, Silke. It was a brilliant conversation and a lovely talk. And it's been my pleasure to host this and to have a nice conversation with you. Thanks to all of the participants. There will be, this is recorded and it will be placed on the Atlas, so it will be available. And also we will circulate Silke's books, access to them, and so on and so forth in terms of reading lists, etc. But thank you for your time, Silke. It's been a real pleasure. Really nice to meet you, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. But great to meet you. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you on the 18th of the 10th for practice research and PhDs with Susie Attiwell in conversation with Tuna Kristen from Tallinn in Estonia. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Silke. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Zurich.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.